Hey everyone, I wanted to talk about this project that you have coming up. We are inside of our Module 2 Photoshop. And the project I want to talk about here is the Photoshop project. And whenever you work on one of our projects, it's very important that you go ahead and open up the rubric. And this will walk you through everything that you need to do for this particular project. So, first thing I want to take a look at for this is what types of things are we actually making. So what I want you to aim at is looking at a movie style poster. And so if I just look up movie posters and I just Google this here and pull up these things, you can see that what is typical of these movie posters is they have a lot of different things overlaid over them, different colors, and they're using all of their space very completely. They have a lot of texture and things going on, and they have text. This one really, probably this would be your focal point, but generally they have one focal point that you look at, but then they have a lot of things that are in the background that add depth and texture and things like that. And that's a style that we're looking for. So, I want you to obviously use Photoshop for this, and you should be able to get Photoshop. Now, luckily, we have it over here on our Adobe Creative Cloud in our menus, which is awesome. But what I want to do here is we're going to go ahead and walk you through just the steps that are required here to get a good grade in this project, because I will be asking you to give me your PSD that demonstrates all of these things. So the first thing that you're going to need to do, since it's going to be a PSD, instead of turning in just a regular flat document, you're going to have to create a folder for me where all of your elements are going to be included. So I'm going to go out here. I'll just do this on my desktop, and I have a bunch of junk out here, but I'm just going to go ahead, create a new folder, call it my Photoshop document. Helps if I can spell. Photoshop project, I'll call it. Okay, and now what I want to do is I want to go out and get some elements for this particular project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Unsplash. And here I was looking for kind of a scary pictures, and I don't have to. I'm going to do kind of a black and white looking image, but I don't need to get black and white images to do that. I can change it to black and white in my Photoshop. But here I can go ahead and I can download this. Now I want you to go ahead and copy these things, because part of this project will also be giving me kind of a bibliography for your images. I want to know what your sources were. So make sure that you are copying your links and things like this. Just really, I'm not trying to get you to pay attention to form and formatting and everything in your links, but I just want you to be very conscientious about the fact that you're using someone else's work. So make sure part of this project is documenting where your images came from. And so as you grab things, make sure you get it here. I'm using Unsplash because Unsplash actually is, wish my email there would stop dinging at me. But Unsplash is a not copyright free necessarily, because people hold their copyright, but you're allowed to use people's work. So we'll do that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this image, and I am going to, you can also do a download of it is an option here. Download image for free, and you have the options of the different sizes. I know I don't want the great big one, so I'm going to go ahead and take that, and I am going to, right now it's downloading into my downloads folder, but I'm going to take it from my downloads folder, and I am going to move it, not to trash, but I'm going to move it to the folder. So I'm going to actually copy and then move it to my folder in the desktop. so that I know, because I only want to work with these elements that are here. And then I wanted to have a Scary Road one, and I already downloaded that. It should be in my downloads. Let's see if I can find it with all my other junk that's in here. Nope, that is not it. Okay, well, let's go back to Unsplash and find it. I think I just typed in scary, and these are the different images that came up for me. Let's do Scary Road. I like this one, but it's a little dark. I could lighten it up, but let's do this one, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. I would copy this and put it on a Word document. Gonna copy this and put it in my document because I want to make sure that I'm working in this particular thing so that I can paste item. There we go. I was probably there before and I didn't see it. But I want to make sure that I'm working inside of this folder so that things don't get lost and confused, because it also I'm going to zip up this folder and turn it in for my project. So let's go ahead here into Adobe Photoshop. I'm going to make a new document. And since this is going to be a poster, I'm going to go ahead and make it as if it would be for print. I could say tabloid size, because that would be the size of a piece of newspaper. So yep, we'll do that one. I do want RGB color. Let's walk through this. You don't really need to change it, but I can call this poster. I have my width and everything already set. 300 pixels per inch is the print resolution, really. So that's generally you want to match whatever you're going to be using for your printer, and 300 pixels per inch is a very common printing resolution. RGB color is perfect. Depending on if you go to a different printer, like an offset printer, they may want you to use CMYK color. But for our purposes, we're going to leave it at RGB. My background is white as opposed to transparent. This is important. If you're going to make things like GIFs or things that are going to overlay other things, you would be working in transparent. But since I am working on what will be a piece of paper, I'm just going to have a white background. Take this, square pixels, that's fine, create. Okay, so here is my background image. So now I can go in and I can place linked, and I can go into my desktop and look for that Photoshop folder. And I want the road first because that's going to be my background. Okay, now this is kind of squished up because the X and Y axis are not the same. Since this is a movie poster, I can actually have black on the bottom here for words or something. I really just want this tree, which is good. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll hit the return. Now I'm going to make another layer. by hitting this plus sign down here, and let's bring the girl in. I can place her, or I could copy and paste her, whatever I wanted to do. The difference between linked embedded and linked place linked is that linked means that if you make changes or something to that other document, it's still kind of its own entity. It needs to be carried around. You need to have it in the folder. Embedded means it becomes an actually part of this project, and it's not somewhere else to be edited or lost. Right now, I'm going to, on this one, I could say linked embedded, then she should be in there. Okay, so you can see that she's on a different layer now. So let's go ahead and take a look real quick at the rubric and see what it is that we're supposed to be doing. I need to see that I need to have non-destructive layers. So the first thing that I want to do is convert her to a smart layer. So I'm going to go up here to where it says layers, and I am going to convert her to a smart object. And you can see now there's a little block here. Now the cool thing here is that whenever I apply a filter or anything to this, it can be turned on and off. Any changes that I make, it's not going to destroy the quality of this image. Whereas if I did it without making a smart layer, if I shrunk her down and then saved it and blew it back up, she would get all pixelated. Lots of weird things could happen. So we don't want to do that. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to transform her, make her a little bit bigger so that I can work with her. Kind of get her the right size here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a mask. But first, actually, let's go in and select her. So I'm going to go in and get my magic selection tool. There's not a lot of difference in the colors around her hands and things like that. So it's going to be probably a little challenging to get her arms and hands with this method. But yeah, see, let's give it a try. Actually, I'm going to magnify her a little bit here so we can see what's going on. She is very spooky, isn't she? That's an object selection tool, actually. No, I don't like that one. Let's go back and try this one. Magic wand tool. Wrong one. Quick selection. There we go. I'm getting a little bit too much, but we're going to mask so we can mainly get that. Now with her selected, I'm going to hit this mask key. And you can see that I've masked out most of the stuff that was around her. Now I can go in with the mask selected. This is really teeny tiny. I'm going to use my brackets keys and get it a little bit bigger. You can see how this has a soft edge around it. It's a little bit fluffy. I don't want that. I want a sharp edge. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put my hardness here up to 100. Now this will make very sharp, clean edges. Using my brackets to get smaller. Now this could end up being very painstaking to get this done correctly, and I don't really have time to be very, very careful in my demonstration here because I'm sure you guys don't want to watch a 2-hour, 3-hour video of me trying to erase her. But let's just imagine here that she is all nicely erased out. See how this is missing up here? We're missing part of her arm, so we would just inverse. There are many tools, and as you go through some of your tutorials, you're going to find better methodologies to cut people out, or different ones that, you know, will work better in different situations. So feel free to kind of explore and find different ways. I recently saw a really good way to cut people out, and now I can't remember what it was. I'll have to hunt it down again. One of the new ones, because Adobe is always adding new tools. Not taking away tools so much as hiding them and taking priorities away from other tools. But again, she would be complicated because she was against a black and white background, and she was black and white. There wasn't a lot of contrast going on. So whatever we do, she's going to be rough. Wow, that was bad. Okay, now you are going to probably do a much more careful job than what I'm doing now, but this is going to work for right now. Now, since she is a smart object, things that I can do here, let me get that out of the way, is I can go in and I can add filters to her. Let's say I want to give her a blur. We'll do a little Gaussian blur on her. Whoops. I did it actually on the masking instead of on her. So let's go back in and do a filter, blur. And you can see here that since she is a smart object, we have smart filters. We can turn these on and off. You probably can't see because it's pretty subtle, but I can go in and add all kinds of different filters to her. I don't know. Not that I would want to do that, but if I did, now I can look at that and say, oh no, that's terrible. Like I can just shut off just the sheer. Other things that I want you to pay attention to here, and you'll notice as you see in movie posters, they have layers and they're all blending. You may have smoke blending into people and things like that. And that's layer blending modes. By the way, here we've looked at non-destructive layers. We talked about documented image sources where you're going to write that on a Word document. Talking about filters and effects. I'll get back into more of those, but let's talk about layer blending modes. Layer blending modes are going in and making layers blend into the layers that are below them in certain ways. Actually, I want to move her up so she's actually standing on the road. Okay, so layer blending modes are, if you go in here, we can kind of roll down and see if we can find one where she looks good. Kind of like that one. And what's going on is she is blending with her background. in a certain way so that you can see the background is showing through. So this is going to be good. And you can see that there are all different kinds of effects. I'm looking for one that will look good just for her. But these different things, all kinds of different effects for whatever it is that you're trying to do. I think I like that one. Okay, so now I have here a layer blending mode. I have filters and effects going on. I have my sharp images. So where I'm going wrong here is it's really not looking very good. I'm not following my design principles. And this is kind of my area where I can say, hey, you know, are you making this look good? Are you having a good focal point? And are you using proportion correctly and things like that? And this is you're making it look good, and I haven't done that yet. But you can see that I also used masking in here, right here. So I've actually done a lot of the basics that I would do in order to get a grade. I haven't put text. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to select this. I want to make this particular layer black and white, I think. So now just by taking that and going in and adding adjustments to the layer, I added this adjustment layer is affecting everything that is below it. If I had an area that I didn't want it to affect, like say I wanted this particular tree to be green or something like that, I would go in, select the mask, and paint on the mask. Why am I not getting on there? Oh, there, we'll make this bush green. Maybe I was and it just wasn't showing up. So I could highlight this and just have this thing be color. So that is my adjustment layer that I created. Those are fun to work with. I've used masking twice. Okay, so now I would put down here my title if I wanted to do it this way. You can put it any way you want. I suggest that you look at some of your favorite movie posters and see how they're laid out and kind of emulate. Don't copy a movie poster. And I would prefer that you make up your own movie, but you can copy styles for sure. I think I'm copying here a movie. I think there actually is a movie called In the Woods. But so now if I add here the kind of text that goes in the movie, I can actually just call this like she's in the woods. That's not really a good readable font. Let's see if we can get a good font. Arial's a little boring. And then I could put in here anything that I would do. So, you know, if we look at everything that I've done here, I've used my filters and my smart objects. I've made it non-destructive by making a smart object so that whenever I save this and I go back out, come back in, it's going to work okay. I'm not going to destroy my layers and then not have my images anymore. This will be a Microsoft Word document. Filters and effects we looked at, layer blending modes we looked at. Okay, in this module, you'll notice that you have a movie and a little project to do that are about design principles. I would like you to do that prior to working on this particular project so that you know what the design principles are and you know how to lay out something properly and how to have focus on different things, proximity, all of that stuff. I'm not going to go into it because there's another video on it. But we use masking, and I put text. So up to this point, I probably wouldn't get all the points for text because I only have one little bit of text. But I created a non-destructive layer and I used it. So I would get the points for this. If I had my Microsoft Word document, I would get the points for this. If I use layer blending modes once or at least once, more than twice, I would get at least some of the points for this, depending on how well they're used. Actually, it's starting to come together visually. It's not that bad. So I would probably get some of the points. I'm definitely not all the points, but some of the points for that. I would get all the points for masking because I've used it well and I've used it twice. So that is how I go ahead and grade. So it's basically, did you use it? Did you kind of use it not just like, for instance, sometimes people will create a smart layer, but then they don't add any filters or anything to it. So they created it, but they don't actually use it. So some people will have masks, they're there, but they weren't actually used. So if you're not actually using them, you're not going to get full credit, if that makes sense. Anyway, that is pretty much how this poster is going to work. I want you to go ahead and give me the PSD for it. So what you're going to have to do, especially if you did linking, placed linked objects, you're going to have to go into your desktop. And I'm using a Macintosh, so I am going to compress this folder. If you are using a Windows machine, you would go down here and it would say send to compressed folder or something, send to zipped folder. So, but in here it would be send to is what you're looking for. And then inside it's either like send to compressed or zipped or something like that on Windows. Anyway, that is how you do this project. I'll probably leave both videos in there. I have two videos. One is on an older version of Photoshop, so it's a little bit different, especially in like creating smart objects, but I think I go probably more into depth in some things. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions.